Now then, Familamo, welcome back to another video on Jazza TV. Today I'm going to talk about how boxing has changed then and now, since the day I turned professional to the current day. What I've seen, what I've noticed, how things have changed. Interesting really, because it's only, well I say only, in boxing terms, it's a long time. I've been professional maybe 13 years, maybe, feels like a long time, but I did turn pro very, very young, and I had a full amateur career ahead of me, but I was just too excited to turn professional, so I did. But how boxing has changed since then, things that, whether they're right or wrong, whether you agree or not, how it's changed since then. The arenas weren't really big things, it was small halls. It was small halls like the town halls at the biggest, and like sports halls. That was what the thing is. But nowadays, people think like it's not even a good show if it's in a sports hall or a small arena. You'd have the Olympia in Liverpool, we have the Olympia, or you'd have the York Hall in London, and they're iconic. But even the small hall promoters, they can have a show in their venue. So I would say that it's moved on. It's well moved on now. Now the common thing now will be arenas, and I would say that it was Matchroom that brought that in for it to be so regular, and we expect that as boxing fans now. So small halls to sports halls, small halls to arenas. That was the first one. Another one that I noticed now, when I turned professional, when was 24, 20, 18, maybe 3 Olympic cycles ago, maybe? I was watching the Olympics. Must have been, I turned professional in 2011, must have been 2012, was that the Olympic cycle? But anyway, around that age, could have been 2004, I don't know, around them years, I remember watching a fella from Ukraine fighting in the Olympics. And I remember watching this fella and thinking, watching how big he was, but how fast his feet were. He had like smooth feet, you know what I mean? How he moved, he just glided and in and out effectively, and he also had power. And I remember saying to myself, wow, it's a good job the Eastern European countries don't turn professional, because this fella will be a world champion, guaranteed. Alexander Usyk. At the time, obviously there was professional fighters from Eastern Europe that turned professional, but they were on the back of the communism. That was like, it must have been an overlapping thing. Obviously they weren't in communism anymore, but you didn't have these fighters turning professional. They were amateurs. They do 2 or 3 Olympic cycles, that was their thing. And the Cubans, definitely not. Cubans like some Mario Kindle and these fighters, it was only the likes of the Gamboa and Rigondeaux age that started defecting from Cuba to turn professional, because they was still in the communism. So you would never see these Eastern Europeans or Cubans, the top level amateurs, turning professional. The Americans and the British did it, but yeah, you never see the Eastern Europeans or the top level amateurs doing it. Another one, it seems like so many years ago, but I remember it. I really remember it because it affected me. Women's boxing just came in at the time. I don't know women's boxing had been around, but at that time when I turned professional, I don't remember anyone being a professional pro, because a few years before that, my weight class, what I was on the Olympic team program for, that got taken out of the Olympics, because they took 3 weight classes out to put 3 girls classes in. At that time, obviously there weren't no professionals before then. Obviously the amateurs come before the Olympics, and it was then that wave of fighters who went to that Olympics who then turned professional. Maybe the Katie Taylors, the Tasha Jonases, all these brilliant female fighters, they were the ones who, Savannah Marshalls, they then turned over. But these were the girls that came onto the Great Britain team at that time. And at that time when I turned professional, they weren't even it weren't a thing. Women fighting. Obviously you had the Jane Couches of the world, but Jane Couch, I give her so much credit, because what you think, like, yeah, she's world champion, there's loads of world champions. At that time there was no one like Jane Couch. Jane Couch burst the doors in, and I don't think it was done for years and years and years after that. But take me out to Jane Couch, because she done what girls are doing now when it weren't even I know it weren't possible for a lot of these girls. I'm not taking them nothing away from nothing, but Jane Couch in her era, it was just laughable. And I seen this the other day. I was in a changing room, and in this changing room, I just looked around and thought, wow, this is mad, this. Because there was Jamie Moore, Arnie Farnell, and Michael Jennings, all in the same changing room as coaches. And these three lads, these are like Manchester's finest, aren't they? And then you'll have like the Kevin Mitchells, Derry Matthews, Stephen Smith, Joe McNally. Who else? Obviously you'll have some of the Americans, some of the really good fighters like Buddy McGirt. But coaches used to be coaching coaches, you know what I mean? Like, they was known as coaches. They never had a career as a fighter, a lot of them. But now you see a lot of fighters like Frankie Gavin. Yeah, I think maybe that these brilliant fighters who've turned professional as coaches have got a lot to offer. And I think that's one of the reasons why British boxing's at an all-time high. The promoters, back then, every promoter got allocated a few slots from Sky or whoever the big challenge was. You got allocated a certain amount. You had ESPN. You'd see different promotional companies using ESPN to highlight their shows, and obviously they get the revenue from the TV company, and then they'd give it to the fighters and put the show on with it and take a few quid for themselves. But then, must have been around 2015, could be wrong there, but Sky Sports was the first one to do it. They gave all their dates that year, from allocating them to all good promoters with good fighters, just to one promotional company, which was Matchroom at the time. And Matchroom, they must have believed in Matchroom vision, because Matchroom totally took it to a new level, and it was good for British boxing that he did. Bet they regret it now, don't they? Because Matchroom went their own way, went with his own, and now Sky Sports is not the biggest platform for boxing. But that was back then. Every promoter got a few television slots, and some years it'd be like you got relegated because you haven't got too many good fighters. Another promoter get a chance because you've got a few fighters in a certain area. You can put a few shows on it per year, and that's how it worked back then. But now it's just totally different. Television was the only way you could watch the fights, couldn't you? You had to be there live, or you have to televise. You can imagine it's a hard job for promoters now to put bums on seats because of how easy it is to access these fights. But back when I sound like an arm man, but back when I turned professional, it weren't like that. It was television, and that was it. If you were a TV fighter, it meant something, you know. But now there's so many apps and stations, and is television even the biggest platform to watch fighting on these days? I don't know. In the future, will it be? Definitely not. I think even television channels are going to have to look on how they're going to go about their future, because I think apps and internet is taking over, and you can imagine what's going on in the future. I can imagine it's going to be like 3D experiences, cameras in the ring, and you're going to even go to headsets and all-inclusive surroundings and stuff like that. I can imagine that's where television is going to have to go. You put headsets on, you can look left and right, you've got a camera in the corner in the ring. I know they have tried it before, but they weren't quite there yet. So yeah, that was the thing back then, television. If you're a television fighter, that was it. You meant you were a good fighter if you're on the telly. But now it's apps. The way boxing camps used to be situated, which I was coming to the back end of this, but I've still seen it. Coaches being all in one. Coaches would be like, he'd give you strength and condition sessions or circuits or whatever he knew, whatever he thought was best. He'd give you a diet plan, he'd tell you how to eat, although he never dieted in his life, and he didn't understand how to diet, he didn't understand nutrition. He didn't understand hydration. Hydration weren't even a thing. People used to think you were a shit house for having a drink in between rounds in the gym. But these are the old school coaches who were dying off as I was coming to the sport. But these coaches still carried on their mentality from learning off them. And coaches are all in one. Whereas nowadays, we don't have all in ones coaches, because it's not professional. It's not seen as professional. Sometimes it has a purpose. But now you'll have a nutritionist, you'll have a doctor, you'll have a strength and condition coach, dietitian maybe, you'll have a physio, you'll have some fighters have a running coach now. So it's evolving all the time. But yeah, back then, coaches just didn't like anyone other than themselves being managing, whether that's because of their own ego and he wants to take all the credit himself and he didn't want to put all this work into fighters and then get told, hey, he was fit, him must have been that running coach that give him all the stamina. I get that, I understand that, but it's changed so much. Social media was around because Facebook was around when I turned professional. But then came Twitter and then came Instagram. Instagram where it was about. Maybe it was, but not here where we were from in England. And your coaches wouldn't let people in the gym with a camera. You weren't welcome. And this was the mentality of coaches back then. A few coaches copped onto it. A few coaches actually liked the fame about it. But I think a good coach doesn't want to know about the camera. It's not about him, it's about a fighter. But what they do is they also allow these people to come in because they understand a fighter can make a living out of this. He can build a following, he can grow from this, and if the fighter grows from it, that means we all grow from it. That means we get bigger opportunities. So promoters, when you turn professional now, a promoter will say to you, how many followers have you got on your social media, what accounts have you got, what accounts do you use? This is what they want to know. Not boxing men, but boxing men don't know everything. There's a space for these people, smart people, you know what I mean, very intelligent in what they do. We can take experience from them. In boxing, it can only benefit us. But sometimes you go too far, don't you? And you're no longer a boxer, you become a bit of a businessman, and that's a different story. But yeah, social media, when I turn professional, it's crazy to even think. A promoter might ask you, how many followers do you got? So that's one of the things that you should definitely consider when you turn professional, building social media. It's not easy. There's things that you're going to have to do when you don't want to do them, and it's just the way it is nowadays. What I didn't used to hear of hardly ever was fighters getting caught for steroids. Obviously steroids always been a thing, it always will be a thing, but I never used to hear of fighters getting collared for steroids. Maybe it's just become so easy and accessible to get steroids these days. I'm not too sure, actually. I don't know why. Or maybe that the people who were testing for them have become better and more advanced, so therefore they're catching more people who weren't getting caught before. But steroids is one that you didn't used to hear when I turned professional. Influencer boxing. That was that in the boxing industry, we did never think that was gonna stick around. We never thought that was a thing. Now, do I agree with it? A lot of people say to me, Jazza, do you agree with this influencer boxing? And they get a surprise when I answer them, and the truth is, yes, I do agree with it. I fully agree with it, because this is how I see it. They're not taking nothing from me. They're not taking food out of my mouth. They're not taking nothing away from my family. They're not taking nothing away from my career. Everything that they do, they generate themselves. So they're not saying to a boxing promoter, they're not going to, let's use Frank Warren for example. Frank, I've got a show on the 20th of June and I heard you have two. Can you swap your show and put my one on instead? That's not what's going on here. What they're doing is they're taking their own niche thing and putting it in their avenue, and people are actually choosing themselves to go and watch this entertainment. And that's what it is, entertainment. So I do agree with it, because I don't think they're stealing from no one. They built up a social media fan base or television personality fan base, which it weren't easy for them, and I understand that. And they're now utilising it on it, you know. They're not fighters, and I've never heard it. Well, I think fighters get a bit frustrated when they hear them talking about being fighters and talking like the fighters, and fighters say, you've not got the first idea what it's like to be a fighter. Stop pretending you're a fighter, because I am a fighter and I know what it takes, and it's 10 times harder for me to do it, and I'm 10 times better than you. So don't you put yourself in the same bracket as me. I think that's what fighters are saying. But I don't know, I wouldn't knock anyone for having a go at the sport, no matter what level it is, because it's hard enough, whether that's influence boxing or not. So I think, you know, take me out off to these people, because they're generating it themselves. So yeah, do I disagree with influencer boxing? Definitely not. If you want to get in there, have a go to gain experience, you know, you're going to make a few quid out of it, even better. What my gripe is to the influencer scene is boxing promoters using fighters to make a living off them for the last 25 years, and then they see more money in these YouTubers and then jump ship. Fighters deserve respect, especially when everyone's taking the punches, and we're all making money together. I get it, I understand the promoters work really hard, I understand, but promoters want to pretend that it's a partnership and it's a team when he's got a world champion on his arm and he wants to be a part of the team. But when there's someone who makes more money than him, he's pushing fighters aside. If I see that, that's when I think that's wrong, you know. And then I think about the social media, what they call it, the boxing channels, no, the channels, the outlets, social media outlets, YouTube channels. They build their fan base, they get their views by starting out every single one of them, by going round the small gyms. They know someone local, they latch on to him, they turn up at his gym, they say, can I come and do a 5-minute interview with you? Of course you can, mate, no problem to me, I'll help you out. That's what boxers are like. And then what happens all of a sudden, he's moved on to another fighter and he doesn't go and see that little fella no more, and then he gets a bigger fighter, he doesn't see the fella who's okay, average fan base anymore, and then he meets a star and then he starts mingling with the stars, and all of a sudden all these people who he was around at the start, he doesn't give a bollocks for them now. He actually won't even get amateur fighters on his channel because it messes up his algorithm, because people don't want to know, people don't want to watch these small fighters or amateur fighters, so he won't even put them on his channel because it affects his views. But at one point he was up their arse trying to get them on their channels, and that's what you see with these people. People don't understand that's where they started out, but then the people who were starting out, they were all like getting the leg up, but they're not happy to pull people up with them a lot of the time. And when I see them people jumping over to the viewers on the air, I understand it's the game, and I understand these people work very hard, they travel the country to get these views and take these film footage. I'm not taking nothing away from them, because they do work really hard, spend time away from the family. Take me hats off to them for that. But when it's then, what show do you want to go to? This boxing show or this misfit show? They don't judge you on the industry that they're based in, they judge you on views, you know what I mean? So the boxers are dropped like a gnat. So that's what I don't like about it, and that's how things have changed, you know what I mean? So anyway, that was my observation on how things have changed from then to now, and it's only been just over a decade, but a lot can change, you know, a lot can change in a decade, and it has, and that was the difference back then. I try my best all the time to stay with it, to keep up with it. Sometimes I don't like it, and sometimes I do. Sometimes it comes back around, it benefits me. Sometimes I can do some of the things asked of you by these promoters. Sometimes I think I'm not going to get into that, I'm not going to sell my soul, but that's just the way it is, and you have to roll with the time sometimes. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. Remember, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Wrong comments only, by the way, because they're well funnier than the normal comments. So yeah, you have a lovely day, Family Ammo.